Alright, so here we are with another teardown video. This time I'm looking at the Lenovo 300e Yoga Gen 4. Okay, initial impression, it looks to be a decent machine. And the screen quality, I would give it an average rating. It's not the highest quality screen I've ever seen. However, it's pretty nice. It looks better in person than it does actually on this video. Build quality, if you've seen the Lenovo 100e Gen 4, it's almost identical. This is a 2-in-1, so the screen does fold flat to tablet mode. See, we got our screws here. If we start looking around this machine, I like the textured feel. It does show fingerprints really easy, but it doesn't seem to scuff very easy. The left side, we have a USB-C port, USB-A, and a headphone jack. We also have this slot here. I'll explain more about that. And then on the right side, we have our power button, our volume buttons. We have a USB-A and a HDMI. Now, these are flat buttons. However, if you look closely, they're kind of recessed in. So when you glide your finger over it, you can actually feel where the button is. Dell makes one where I complain about the button. The fact that they made it a little bit recessed makes it so you can feel it. So I don't need to go searching or look to the side of the machine in order to find those buttons. So let's get started with the teardown. Okay, so we're going to go back to the teardown. On this model, we have 3 screws in the back, 1 in the middle, 2 on the side, and then 4 up front. There's also a drainage port here, which allows the liquid to drain from the keyboard straight out for small amounts of liquid, which is nice. Now, that does not help liquid being poured into the side of the computer, which as soon as they fixed this problem, all the kids figured out you could pour liquid in the side, and that became an issue. So let me loosen these screws, and then I'll take this off, okay? All right, so I have all the screws loosened on the computer. Now I'm going to take my spudger and I'm just going to work along the edge. I'm just going to put this in here and try to pop this up. There we go. I start down here. And I'm just going to work along, popping the case up as I go. Okay, we'll continue doing this all the way around. All right, so all I did was glide the spudger around the edge. Now we're just gonna go ahead and lift this off. Okay, so I put my finger up under a corner, and then I just pull. Now, I can feel a lot of resistance here. Now, working with Lenovo for as long as I have, and I also know for 100% sure that I loosened all these screws. I'm just gonna add more force. There it goes. Now my bottom case is off. Okay, so why was this so difficult to pick off? If you look right here in the middle, you'll see these 2 catches here. And if we look on the inside, right here next to the battery, there's a little metal like nub that catches that bottom case, and that's what's causing it to require a little bit more force to get that bottom case off. So as long as you've made sure that you've loosened all the screws really well, don't be afraid to apply force to this one to pull that case off. That's normal. Okay, now just like some of the Dell models, the screws don't actually come all the way out of here. Again, if you try to get them out, they will come, but you just loosen these and they stay in the case, which is nice because it prevents them from falling out as easy. Okay, let's take a look inside the computer. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in here and let's take a look at each part. So we have our left speaker here that's just ran up and plugged into this side I/O board. Okay, on the I/O board is the power button, the volume buttons, a USB-A port, and our HDMI port, which is nice. So we got a lot of ports over here. Now, the big problem is that's not a charging port, which is the #1 break. I wish people would actually make that adjustment, but they don't. To take that board off, we literally have just a screw here, 1, two here, another one up here, and right there. That's it. So those are the only screws we need to take off. There is this shield, but there's nothing underneath it. Okay. We got a ribbon cable that connects underneath the battery to the main board here. All right, and this, like I said, this is our motherboard or our logic board, system board. You know they have too many names for that. But you just have your battery connection, trackpad. You've got another little sensor connector here. You have a speaker cable here that runs to the opposite side speaker. And then up here you have your LCD cable. It's got a little piece of plastic over top of it that you'd have to lift up to flip that switch. To take the motherboard out, we have one screw here, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And Lenovo's famous sticker that if you touch it, they know you're in it because the sticker is designed to tear easy. I've been able to take those off successfully without tearing them, but it is very rare. Usually they do tear. Okay. Our Wi-Fi card is here, and I like the addition of the little rubber. It doesn't seem to be super great in this model because if you notice, this one here is already out of the rubber. So we'll just push that back in. I'll do Lenovo a favor. Okay. Hinges, 3 screws either side, standard Lenovo, and then our battery. Okay. So let's go ahead and pop this battery out. To take it out, we'll just remove 1, 2, 3, 4 screws. Unplug it here. So I'll just start by unplugging it. We'll just lift this cable up. Unplug this. If I can keep my fingers out of the way of the camera, it'd be nice, wouldn't it? I swear soon I'll get a stand so I don't have to do this one-handed and I can show you guys. We'll get some better footage of this. I might actually have a stand somewhere. Should probably go look for it. All right, so there's the 4 screws. This just lifts up and out of place. All right, so right here, and so this, what I said was a sensor cable right here. What this actually is, now that I'm looking at it, is this is a charging cable that comes down along the front. Now, what's it charging? Well, you remember that little spot on the bottom that I showed you before? That's just a placeholder cap. This is a spot for an integrated pin that you can slide into the 300. Okay, so this is where you would put your pin and store it. Now, they sell those specifically for this model. It does not come with the machine. It just comes with this little cap that you're going to put in here. And if you move the cap, it might not line up perfect. So you just have to work on that, make sure it looks good. So we'll just adjust that a little bit. There we go. All right. Underneath the battery, we have our trackpad cable, touchpad, whatever you want to call it. And then we have this sticker that goes around it. Now, the sticker would actually have to come up. Now, in previous models, there was glue holding this down, or a 2-sided sticker. And actually, on this model, there is as well. So I'm going to flip this little panel up. And there's actually glue. If you look closely, you can see the glue on the edges. They just didn't push it down. So, build quality seems to be an issue with this computer. I mean, it's minor things, but that makes you wonder how it's going to hold up long term. I know with the Lenovo, at least the 300e Gen 3, there was a big issue with their keyboards and stuff. They forgot to do a moisture barrier on it. Keyboards were failing left and right. I actually was emailing back and forth with Lenovo until they finally came in and replaced all the keyboards and put moisture barriers in them, which was a pain. I hope that's not a repeat on this model. The good news is there should be enough information out there that we can see it. All right, so I pulled this up, and we've just got 3 screws here for the touchpad, and this is standard Lenovo. You can see up front the 2 hinges. So you just take out those 3 screws, push this forward, and this is going to hinge out. And that's how we're going to replace our trackpad. So if you are interested in replacing the trackpad, just know you have to remove this in order to do it. Now, like I said before, this right here, this little trackpad cable should be glued down. It's not the end of the world if it's not. Okay, so I'm going to put this back. There we go. All right, so now that we've successfully taken apart that and we see how this comes apart, there's nothing like amazing in here or difficult at all. That's pretty straightforward. So let's take a look at the screen and see what the screen gets us. Again, in order to take the screen off, we'd have to remove 3 screws here, unplug these 2 cables so that we can pull it out, 3 screws here, and unhook this. That's all there is to remove this screen. So let's put this back together, and then let's take a look at the screen and see what we got. All right, so we're back together. Like I mentioned before, this is a 2-in-1, so we can flip this screen all the way over. And it folds flat, which is nice. Okay, but how do we take this screen off? Now, this is new for me on this model as well. So if you watch my videos, it's not like I have all this figured out. I'm removing these things the standard way I would almost any other screen and looking for the same tricks. I've been doing this a long time, so I kind of know how they hide things. That's not always the case. Okay, so it looks to me like if you look right there, there is a cover here and a cover there. That looks to me like that's probably going to be a screw hole. And I hate these stupid stickers. Let me see if I can grab a little teeny tiny flathead. Go in here and see if I can pop this out. There it is. Just like that. So a little flathead screwdriver as to not mess up the sticker too much. There we go. That exposes 2 screws that then need removed. That is a tiny, tiny screw. So let me break out my my favorite screwdriver in the world. Again, I get no commission on anything, but after being a tech for years, if you don't know this company here and their screwdrivers, you are missing out. These are the best screwdrivers I have ever used, and I have used a lot. I like my electric ones. As a matter of fact, the one I have has a whole complete set of tools, so I could actually find, there it goes, I can actually find any size screwdriver or whatever I want. But boy, nothing like that good old regular one. Anyways, I got sidetracked. I started talking. Okay, so now we're going to try to remove this screen, and I'm hoping beyond hope they didn't glue this. So I'm just going down this crack right here and trying to pop this screen. It looks to me like it's going to come all the way around. There's some notches here, but these notches actually line up with the keyboard. There's little rubber pieces on the keyboard, and they fit perfectly in there. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to just go here, and I'm just going to rock this up. Okay, so you see what I'm trying to do? I'm going to do this around the screen and see what we got. Okay, I want to stop and show you guys what I'm finding as I go, because like I said, it's new to me. So I started by rocking the spudger here, and I'm still not sure that's not the way to take it off. It looks like I'm creating a little bit of a gap here. When I got down around this piece, and it did look separated, this is actually a separate piece. So I ran my spudger on the inside, and then I ran it on the outside. That allows me to pull this bottom piece off. And what I see when I get to the bottom is I now have a screw here and a screw here, which makes me think that this screen might be more difficult to take off than I originally I thought I would just pry around here and it would come off. But if I had continued to pry all the way around, I know for a fact that it wouldn't come off because there's 2 screws holding me in. So that means these have to come out. Okay. Put some pressure on that. Take these 2 screws out. All right. So now that's not being held down anymore, which is nice. All right. So here's the trick. We're not running our spudger around here. Okay. This is a different screen. So to take this one out, what we need to do is slide the screen down. As you see, as I put pressure, I create a gap right there. So this holds those screws hold that in place, and then I can take my spudger up at the top, right up here, and I can lift up the LCD. So instead of it being a normal spudger going around the edge, it's take off those 2 screws, slide down, and then you can lift up. On the back side of the LCD, we see our normal LCD cable here. Okay, and then we have our cable over here that's running to the digitizer. So LCD cable here. It's got a little plastic piece that we lift up and that just unplugs. This one, like every other LCD, rip the sticker and you see this little, let me grab my spudger here. You see this little metal clip right there. Let me zoom way in here. There's that little metal bar. That lifts up and then that pulls out. Okay, the LCD wires run from here. Actually, sorry, lied. They come from here. They wrap around underneath the hinge, up and plug in to the Wi-Fi cable. This one runs along the base of the machine, around the hinge, base of the machine, around the hinge, up to this Wi-Fi cable. All right. The camera to this, interesting enough, is attached to the LCD bezel. It's right up here. Let me zoom out. So this is my camera. What that means is if I have a faulty camera, right there it is, and you see it just picks up. It's held in by the tape. If I have a faulty camera, it's actually attached to the bezel. It's still replaceable here. I'm going to take a wild guess and say that this is not going to come with the display assembly, but it might, okay? Hinges overall, I like the large screws that they put on. Looks to be thicker than some of the previous models I've seen. Those are okay. I'm not seeing anything overly concerning except for, again, build quality. Do you see this right here? That is a very sharp piece of plastic, sorry. That's a very sharp piece of plastic cutting into that Wi-Fi cable. Okay, so over time, does that damage the Wi-Fi cable? I don't know. It might. Something to think about. Okay, so I could see this needing replaced, especially that side needing replaced at some point. Again, it could be a build quality issue. Maybe it doesn't affect all of them. Maybe it's just this one. Someone put it together poorly, but hey, you make that judgment call on that. Okay, so I'm going to reassemble this now that we've seen it. Look at that wire sticking out. This is why I was concerned. Okay, I'm going to put that back in place when I reassemble this. But I'm going to reassemble this and then I'll give you my final thoughts. All right, so final thoughts. Before I get to that, let me talk about that Wi-Fi cable we saw pinched. After looking at this very closely when I was reassembling it, that's a direct result of having to slide the screen down. So just watch sliding that screen down. If you have to replace a lot of screens, I could see eventually where that needs to be replaced. Okay, so again, final thoughts on this computer here. Overall, it's actually a decent computer. It's a good looking computer. I think it's built mostly well. Like I said, when you saw the teardown video, you saw a couple manufacturing defects that I wasn't really thrilled about. Now, will that carry into all of the units? I don't know. Was it that big of an issue that one of the wires was loose and the tape wasn't fully stuck down? No, not really. But could it scream of a potential larger problem? Yeah, possibly. I do like how they separated the ports. Again, I wish the USB-C port that used for charging would be on the I/O board, because that is a commonly broke port. Same with the headphone jack, which obviously the two most commonly broken ports they put directly on the motherboard. So that makes for a costly repair. But overall, this machine looks nice. I like the build of it. I like the 100e Gen 4, and it's modeled just like it. But, spoiler alert, I did benchmarking on every computer that I have. This one, even though it has 8 gigs of RAM and is touchscreen, this one is almost as slow as the 100 Gen 4 with 4 gig of RAM. And that's weird to me. I mean, I really don't like it. Now, as far as the video graphics is, this one's slightly better. But there are a lot faster machines on the market in the same ballpark. So, would I buy this for students? Again, this one's a fence decision. If I got a great deal on this, this wouldn't scare me. Repair-wise, it's fine. If you order a screen from somewhere, just make sure you get these stickers. If you don't and you damage one, then you're going to have the exposed screw. Takes away a little bit from the aesthetic. But it wouldn't scare me. But it would have to be a really good deal, because like I said, there are other devices on the market, including the 100e Gen 4, the touchscreen model, blows this one out of the water. Now, the difference is it's not a 2-in-1. This is a 2-in-1. So if you need that full tablet style, this one is different. It's not as fast, not as snappy. But are there better units? Sure. I have those benchmarks if anybody wants to see them. But this is, it's a decent machine. But I would say it's a decent $230, $240 machine. Is it a $300 machine? No. Nope. If I'm spending $300 plus, this is not the machine I'm going to use. Even though it does have a shutter. I forgot to mention that. Okay, so there's a shutter up here. There also is no camera on the keyboard. So there are other models that have dual cameras. This one doesn't. So it's a very base model machine. Save your money. Get a good deal. Fine, snatch it. All right, that's my opinion. Take it for what it's worth. Use it however you want. You've seen the teardown, and that's my general review.